What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's daily market recap. You know what's interesting? Today, I was kind of expecting it would be slow. It's the Thursday before a long weekend. The markets are closed tomorrow, Friday, for Good Friday. Now, I know that's a tough pill to swallow for us day traders who show up every single day, are looking forward to the market being open, but there's nothing we can do about it. So markets closed tomorrow, which means this is a 4-day week, which, although it's Thursday, it's our Friday. And someone asked this morning, Ross, do you think any companies are going to put out good news today? And I thought, well, that's a good point. Good thing you mentioned it, because you're right. It's the Thursday before the long weekend. Probably not. In fact, this would be a great time to put out some terrible news and just hope it gets kind of forgotten over the weekend. So the result this morning when I sat down, there really wasn't much on the scanner. We had, interestingly, TGL from yesterday, which popped up, but that one didn't hold. Now, if you recall from yesterday's chart, it had that very clear ascending resistance line where it kept coming up to it. So that came up this morning at about $5.60. I'll just pull up the chart here so you can take a look. So I saw TGL and I just thought, no, it's not going to work most likely because of yesterday's resistance line and the fact that it didn't work yesterday. And today, like if it couldn't work yesterday, which was, day one of this breakout, then today with no volume and no fresh catalyst, I can't imagine it's going to work. So it did have a little more room to get up towards this 560 level, but I just really wasn't sure that that was going to work and that was going to happen. So when I first sat down and I actually pulled up the scans on my phone this morning at about 6:30, I saw SMX was the leading gainer. So those of you guys who tune in on YouTube, as you know, we've got a 2-week trial here at Warrior Trading. Now, during the trial, you'll get access to my scanners, you'll get access to the chat room, you'll get access to the charts and the news feed, but you'll also get access to a selection of classes from our Warrior Pro curriculum, which means even if you join today, yes, the market's closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but you could spend all of that time studying the selection of classes that we make available to you. So then come Monday morning, you're in good shape. You're kind of up to speed with the way I'm going to be trading. So my focus, first things first, each morning is I pull up the scans on my phone, Day Trade Dash, and I look to see which stock is gapping up. By the way, there'll be a link for the 2-week trial in the description for those of you guys that want to do it. So SMX popped up after hours and then squeezed higher. Now, this is a stock with a very low float, clearly has some ascending support here. I can visualize that without drawing the trend line, but you can always, just for good measure, pop that trend line on there. And now sometimes when I draw a trend line like this, the way I usually draw a trend line, and I'll just cover this a little bit here just for those that are curious. Typically what I do is I connect the first 2 points, which could even be like right here, these two, but usually you don't draw a trend line that's that close together, just because even a very subtle adjustment here has a super significant effect when it goes further out. However, in this case, connecting those 2 dots right there, those 2 lows, there and there, it then ties back to here, and to here, and to here, and to here, and to here. And then right here, we were sort of battling below it, above it, and back below it. So it actually is pretty valid, but you could have also connected it right here, and it would more or less be about the same, as long as you're connecting to the low of that candle. And I always connect to the low of the candle, the low of the candle wick. However, I will say sometimes you draw the line and you realize, well, I could draw it like this, or I could draw it down here maybe like this. Which one's more valid? And I usually say whichever area it touched the most is going to be the one that I'm going to keep it at, because that's probably how other traders are going to draw it as well. So anyways, SMX popped up after hours and then squeezed up again pre-market. And so sitting down around 6 a.m., it was the leading percentage gainer. But then by 6:30, 6:45, and 7 a.m., it was pulling back. So I was like, all right, that one's probably not going to work because it's pulling back. And my concern on it was that anyone who bought it after hours, hoping for this gap up, would probably sell at 7 a.m. So I figured there'd be some selling coming into 7, and that is kind of what we saw. So that was our leading gapper. Then TGL was the second leader. And this one, as I said, I just thought it wasn't clean yesterday. I can't imagine it's going to be any easier today. And so then here we are, 7 a.m., and I've got nothing to trade. 7:15, I don't see anything for news. 7:30, nothing. 7:45, nothing. 8 a.m., nothing. 8:15, nothing. So now it's 8:15. I haven't even taken one trade yet. I'm just sitting here thinking, is this going to be a no trade day? Now, if we look at my calendar from the week, I'll just pull this up for you so you can kind of get some perspective. So this is where I sit. Well, now you can see where I sit on the day also, by the way. So sitting at $14,278.27 on the day, which is pretty good. Was at $238,000 on the month, not including today. So today will put me up over 250. But if we look at my calendar, let's see. It takes a second to load. So we're going to look at the calendar for April and my P&L for each day. So what you're going to notice is that I only took one trade on Tuesday and made only $221. And then Wednesday, I made 22 grand. Monday was 12,000. Today, 14,000. But, you know, our Tuesday was totally dead. So I didn't know if today was just going to be like, you know, another day like Tuesday. If this is just a week where it's going to be like hot, cold, hot, cold. But then all of a sudden, DXF. All right, DXF. This is the one that saved the day, but it was a roller coaster. It was pretty risky. And a Chinese company, which to me didn't really make sense at this. I mean, with everything going on with the tariffs, but at the same time, I'm trying to focus on trading the chart, trading the price action that's right in front of me. And what ended up happening on DXF is, I'll back this up. It first popped up right here. It popped up to about 10, then it dips down. And then it comes back up here, it breaks 10, goes straight to 1150, all the way to 12, 13, 1350, 14, micro pullback right there. So right there on that micro pullback, you got a little dip right there, and it pops up to 15. Here's the way I was feeling. I was nervous. It was light volume. It had bigger spreads, and I just felt like, I can't buy it here. So I'm watching it, and I'm feeling frustrated, and a little FOMO, but I can't buy it there. So it ends up pulling back down here. And this is where I took my first trade. I bought right down here on this pullback, and I set my stop at the low, which unfortunately, well, it was at $12. So I'm in down here at about, let's see. Actually, I bought right on this candle here. So I got in about 13, and then the support here was closer to 12.50. So it's about 50 cents of risk. So I get in at 13. It goes up to 13.50, goes up to 13.77. And in those candles right there, as it pops up, I take some profit off the table, and I'm up about 1,600 bucks. So, all right, 1,600 bucks. That's good. I mean, but it's not great, and I'm a little disappointed. So then it drops back down here, and on this dip, I bought at 11.87. It hit a low of 11.77. I put the order out for 2,000 shares, and I filled only 848. I got a partial fill. So that was a little bit of a bummer. Then it pops back up, so a little profit there. It dips down again. I didn't do this dip because at this point I was like, I don't know, I think now we're just stair-stepping down. So now I'm leaving it alone. I'm sort of patient. I'm waiting. And I actually switched gears and took a trade on another stock. So let me pull up that stock for you real quick. So let's see. I'm going to do this on my other monitor, or I'll just drag it over here. So let's see. Oh, we'll go full screen. All right. So Verb on the left and PRTG on the right. So Verb, or we'll do PRTG first because that was the next one I traded. So PRTG, this one had a big move on Friday. I think it was last week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. So Friday last week, this had a big move from $5 to 13. This morning, it popped up from 7 all the way up to 9. That is a big move. So when it started to pop up, I jumped on it. I thought, all right, here we go. You know, we've got some action, and we just had this big move on DXF, and I was kind of like, I don't want to miss the next one. So I jumped on it at $9. On a 1,000 share order, I filled only 800 and, what was it? 40, let's see. Yeah, 844 shares. And what was the other one? 848. That's interesting. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I filled only 844 shares. Press the buy button again, filled 528 shares. So I've got like 1,200 shares. It pops up here to so I'm in at like 915. Pops up here to a high of 970. I take profit off the table, and it totally rejects and drops down. And I walked away with $396 of profit. I was like, wow, okay. Close call. High volume red candle. All right. So be careful. So I switched back over to focusing on DXF. So I'm watching the DXF chart, and this was at about 8:36. And then I see Verb pop up. All right, so Verb pops up, and on Verb, oops, wrong ticker. So when Verb pops up, there we go. I saw, once again, just popping up, bought at $5.13, but here's the difference with Verb. It actually had news. So I was like, well, Verb has news. And so I thought, all right, well, DXF doesn't have news. It's a little tricky. And PRTG doesn't have news, but this one actually has news. So I jumped in Verb right here, basically right as it pops up, right there. We had this consolidation, and then right as it broke that level, I jumped in and I added as it was squeezing higher, hits a high of 6, drops down. I bought the dip, drops down, and I stopped out. So I ended up walking away with some profit because I took some profit off the table up here before adding back, but then I gave back most of what I made. So I finished up $580 on Verb. Then we had STBX. STBX was the third one I traded, and this one I bought on this micro pullback right there. It ends up going up to a high of 330 and then coming back down. I made only $291 on that. So the other 3 stocks I traded today were basically break even or failed trades. They didn't work at all the way I wanted them to. But DXF was still holding up. So DXF I'm still watching, and now coming up towards, let's see, 9 a.m. So right in here, I was watching it. So it was below, let's switch over to the 1 minute chart. All right, so we're right in here, and we were below VWAP, right? We had pulled back, popped up, pulled back, popped up, and then right here, all of a sudden it starts to perk up, and it breaks through volume weighted average price. And I'm thinking if it breaks VWAP and it breaks the high right here of 1230, what's the next resistance level? 1250 and then 13. So as it broke 12 right there, I added. So I added at 12, but by this time there was a lot more volume. See, on this first candle here, not a lot of volume. Right here, it's pretty thinly traded. But by this point, we now had more volume. So I felt more comfortable taking a bigger position. So on this one, I got in at 12 and I added at 1224. It goes up to 1230, goes up to 1240, and I added for the break at 1250. Now, as it squeezes up here to 1277 and to 13, I take some profit off the table. Then we're looking for the 1 minute pullback. I added for the break of 13, and it could not break. There was a wall of selling here. So I gave back about $2,000 off the top. So on that trade right there, I made, let's see, that put me up $10,000 on the day, and then I gave back $2,000 of it on this drop right here. Then it curls back up here, and I got back in. It pops through. I made back about $1,000, drops back down, has a topping tail. I said, I don't like the shape of that candle. I'm not going back in. Comes back up here. I was like, nope, I'm not going back in because of that shooting star candle. It drops down. No trade on it. That's fine. At the open, it pops up to 1350. No trade. Drops down. Comes back up. Drops down. And right in here, as it curls back up, I said, I'm going to get back in. I got back in right there, and boom, it pops up to 1450. And that sent me up to 15,000 on the day. Then I added back for the break of 1450 and gave back 1,000 off the top. And that's when I said, enough's enough, I'm walking away. So today was a day of, kind of making a little progress, giving back a little profit. Like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So if we jump on the whiteboard here, I'll just move this over a little bit. So my P&L today, pretty much was sort of like this, sort of up and then back down and then up and then back down. And that's where I'm finishing. So, $14,000 on the day is not bad, off my high of like 15,500 approximately. So gave back, $1,000, $1,500 off the top. But remember, the daily goal is $5,000. It took a little while to break that daily goal. And it pretty much went from like 2,500 on the day and basically in one trade shot like right up to 10,000. This was then 10K on the day. And then I gave back 2,000 of it, rallied back up, and then, sort of finishing there. So it's not a perfect chart, but you get kind of the idea. So today definitely felt a little bit choppy. Not surprising. Tuesday was super slow. Yesterday was a little tricky. TGL was not easy for me. There were a couple other stocks that were popping up, but I don't know. I just couldn't really get in the groove. And so, but I ended up having a couple decent trades yesterday. So that was good. Had 11 trades total. And here's the thing that I'm really pleased with for April. My accuracy, 77.2%. This is really solid. And the profit loss ratio, $1,900 winners, $1,000 losers. Perfect 2-to-1 profit loss ratio. Unfortunately, today, I had 2 bigger losses. and both were on DXF. So the loss where I gave back about $2,000, and then the other loss where I gave back, I guess it was about $1,000. So those were two losses, but I had a couple other smaller losses on it as well. So I don't think my accuracy today is actually going to be as high as 77%. I think today is probably going to be in the 60s, but that's okay. It's a green day nonetheless. I'm grateful for that. And going into the weekend, feeling good and not wanting to push my luck or overstay my welcome. Because now I'm getting to the point where if I kept trading DXF and I lost money on it as it comes back down, I would feel like I'm running out of time to recover that loss and get myself back into the green. If you look at the overall market, S&P 500, we're kind of just hanging out under the 200 moving average still on the daily. Yesterday was a little bit more dramatic of a sell-off, but sort of rallied back up a little bit. ELPW, American company, an energy company, Chinese company. So this was kind of interesting. Again, that Chinese stocks moving higher with these tariffs going on, but this one is, however, the float's a little higher at 44 million shares. AIRO, this one's an IPO that's beginning. It's going to begin. It hasn't started trading yet. So I know some traders are going to be watching this, but honestly, I haven't had much success trading day one of IPOs typically. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to mess around with that. It's already been a little bit of a tricky week. I don't want to overstay my welcome. Slow and steady is the name of the game. And so my focus and the way I'm achieving this consistency is just hitting base hits. Get in, get green, get out. So lots of small base hits. Now, sometimes I'll end up looking at a chart and think, wow, this thing's gone up $5 a share, and I just keep getting these small base hits. Why am I not just buying and holding the whole move? But I learned to trade during a time when if you didn't take the small base hit, you were going to go red. And so I'm just so trained to take the base hit, take the base hit, take the base hit, and then I'm happy to add back, even if it's higher than my first trades. I'll just add back and keep doing base hit, base hit, base hit. And so for me, my best days are when a stock goes up 10, 15, 20 points because I just get like 100 base hits on it. But sometimes I feel a little silly that, I didn't get like a home run. Anytime I have a home run, it's usually the culmination of dozens of base hits that just total to a large number. It's not from just one entry and one exit on like a huge position and a 10-point move. We got some of those certainly during the pandemic, and I did feel a little bit, I got a little more aggressive and made some good money during that time. But, at the same time, we also saw some big volatility, and there was easy chances to take huge losses. And I think I'm just a little bit more risk averse maybe than some of the other traders out there. So anyways, I've got my head down. I show up every day. I'm grinding, focusing on base hits, and I'll be back at it first thing on Monday morning. Those of you guys who are new to the channel, I hope you hit the thumbs up. I hope you subscribe, because over the weekend, I've got some great episodes that I'm going to upload that I think you will really enjoy. And by the way, again, you can start the 2-week trial today and then study over the weekend the classes that are part of my educational portal and the learning system. So you can go in there and go through the classes that are available to you during that trial. So I hope you guys check that out. And as always, let me remind you, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk, take it slow. And if you want to check out my recent upload that's been really popular on my top 3 most profitable candlestick chart patterns, I'll put the link to that right here. All right, I'll see you guys first thing Monday morning.